I bought this house for $515,000 today, but my neighbor lives in exact same house for just $2,100 renting it out. How do I decide between the two? And this Excel sheet lays out exactly what you need to decide between renting and buying a house. First, we'll learn how much it really costs to buy a house. Then we'll look at what it really means to rent a house for next 20 years. And after that, we will compare both to see which one actually makes you more money. Let's say the house costs $515,000 and you pay $100,000 upfront as a down payment. That's the money coming from your pocket to buy the house. Loan amount is $415,000. Remember, everything in the yellow is editable and you can plug in your numbers to play with this file. So here, the mortgage interest rate is 6.86%. That is the national average for the US right now. Your mortgage for $450,000 is going to last for 20 years. This brings us to our monthly mortgage of $3,182. So what does your house actually cost? You might say $100,000 down payment and $415,000 mortgage. That is going to be $515,000. And in the future, when the house price doubles to $1 million, you might say, bro, I earn a ton of money on my house. But that would be wrong. This is how you actually calculate how much this house really cost you. First is the cost of the house, $515,000. Then you add the interest paid in 20 years to the lender, around $350,000, which comes down to $864,000. But that's not all. You also have associated owner-related expenses. When you own a home, you'll have to pay for things only homeowners pay for. And one of them is property tax, about 1.2% of the house price. That is the national average right now. So that comes down to $6,437 in this case. And it actually goes up by 4.6% every year. And over 20 years, that will add up to $204,000. As a homeowner, you'll also have to pay for HOA, home insurance, and then there is house maintenance. You might have to fix the HVAC system, paint the walls, or there might be some plumbing issues. And this will be around 1.2% of the property cost. So that's around $5,800. So that adds up to $163,000 and $24,000, and it would usually go up by 4.6% annually. I am considering a very minimal increase year over year here. You know how the inflation has gone through the roof in the last few years. And as we all know, people can go overboard decorating their house, remodeling their kitchen, remodeling their bathrooms, and spending $50,000 or $100,000 on that. Let's not get into the nitty-gritty of that expenses here. So if you add all these three things together here, the total would be $391,837. And that brings the total cost of the house to $1.255 million. Now let's pause and think for a second. This house still doesn't belong to you until you pay off your entire loan. But what's great about owning a house, that it's not an iPhone or TV or a set of headphones which will lose its value after you use them. The value goes up. So the price of this house has increased a lot. And now we will calculate how much you have really gained. But first, let's look at how much someone would have spent renting the exact same house for 20 years. Let's see how much rent you have actually paid. Remember, $2,100 every month at a 3% increase for next 20 years. I know that's a lot of numbers, and that's why we have this Excel sheet here. So if you look at column C, the rent remains $2,100 for the first year. Then it increases by 3% every year after that, all the way to 20 years. By the end of 20 years, you're almost paying $3,700 in rent for 1 month. And when I add all this rent up, it becomes $673,000. Wow, that's a lot of rent. Pretty much more than the initial cost of the house, which was $515,000. Was that a good decision to rent or buy the house? Well, there is one more aspect here. We also have a dollar cost average investment going on here. The dollar cost amount was calculated on this person's mortgage minus this person's rent, which comes down to $1,082. So whatever is the differential, so that both of them are having the same outflow of a certain amount, in this case, it is $1,082. So he will be investing $1,082 every single month for the first year. In year 2, the investment amount will go down to $1,019. You know why? because the rent has increased now. That's why the DCA amount is going down. The outflow has to be same. It should be a fair comparison. And if you scroll down, by month 181, the DCA becomes 0. The rent he's paying is equal to this person's mortgage. So he only invested for 180 months. And this amount grows till the end of 20 years. And the value of your DCA investment would be $491,000. Not bad at all. And we also see that there was a lump sum of $97,500 we invested in the first year. That was the down payment of $100,000 minus the 1.25 months of deposit for the rent. So that comes down to $97,500. And that has now become $655,000, close to $656,000. So the net gain from the rent is $474,000, provided we invested the differential amount over the next 20 years. Wow, if rent could make so much money, I can't wait to figure out how much capital appreciation happened in this old house. We can see here clearly we have years and we have mortgages. Most of your mortgage you pay to buy the house goes towards the interest of the lender, not in the equity or towards the principal of your house. So just look at this. You start paying almost 75% towards the interest. Then it gradually reduces to 72%, 70%, and by year 5, you're still paying 66% towards interest. And around 10 years, 50% start going towards the interest and 50% goes towards the principal. In other words, in the first 10 years, most of the money went so that the lender could make profit, not that you could own the home. So the question is, do you really own the home even after paying 10 years of mortgage? So the value of the house over 20 years compounds and grows to a grand total of $1.266 million. And the net gain is a grand $10,000. So in this case, renting actually comes out ahead. And remember, we didn't even include the 5 to 6% real estate agent fees when you try to sell the house. Now it's your turn. Download this Excel sheet from the description below and plug in your numbers and figure out which one makes more sense, renting or owning the house. And by the way, there is no such rule as 786 rule. I just made it up to prove a point that don't blindly follow any rule. Always do homework before you trust anyone. Owning isn't always better and renting isn't always a waste of money. It is all about math. And now you got the exact tool to figure out your own math. Before you go, don't forget to click on this exciting video and don't forget to subscribe. Your finance friend Sushant, signing off.